Hello, my viewers. Today, we want to look on the topic by the name or with the sub-ending time value of money. This is a good topic in finance or that will enable us to have a lot of concept on the issue concerning money. I say that this topic is of great importance because each and every day we are in attempt to chase to get money. And now, what is the value of this money? How is the value of the money determined, or how is the value of money affected by having it at different time? For example, what makes you to be enhanced to find or to accumulate a lot of money now than tomorrow? What makes you to be so attentive on how you use your money at different time? Why do you say that I will spend 30 bob during the morning, and at lunchtime I will spend 50 bob? What makes you to give certain date maybe to your lenders? After lending them your money, you tell them I want my money back after maybe 30 days or 10 days. What differs? Why don't you tell them I will require my money after 1 year? So that thing of time in money, that is what we want to consider. May I start by saying that money available at the present time is worth more than the same amount in the future due to its potential earning capacity. The core principle of finance owns that provided money can earn interest, any amount of money is more worthy sooner it is received. The more you receive money earlier, the more worthy that money is. Maybe you had given someone a loan, the more you receive will be continuing, and we'll be looking maybe as we offer the financial advices, for example, on the issue concerning there is a concept we call the payback period. For example, if you want to invest or to give a loan or to invest in a certain project, you look on something we call the payback period. At what time will this project will have given back my money at the full amount? So I think as we'll be continuing, we will appreciate the concept of time value of money. May say that firms are always confronted with opportunities to earn positive rate of return on their funds, which is automatically good and which is automatically true, either through investment in attractive project or in interest bearing securities, or the money the project of or in the interest bearing securities or in deposit. Each and every organization have that opportunities to use its money. But now when does the problem arise is where the organization have the opportunity, yet it have no money to invest on that given opportunity. Therefore, the timing of cash flow has important economies consequences, which financial managers explicitly recognizes as the time value of money. I want us to appreciate that time value is based on the belief that there is a belief that we have that a shilling or a dollar today is worth more than a shilling or dollar that will be received as some future date. 100 that you receive today is worthy more or more worthy than 100 that you will receive tomorrow. As we be continuing, we'll see why. Because some are asking, how can this happen, or how can we validate this concept? I want us to look on the preference for money. Where do we prefer current cash instead of future cash when do we prefer the current cash instead of future cash? May say that one among the reasons is that current cash has potential to earn interest. Can you imagine when you have 1,000 today, and maybe you have to invest it at your own willingness? You can invest at a higher interest than on a case of a person who had know that 1,000, or the person who earned that 1,000 in promise, yet he had not acquired it in cash. The other factor is about the risky factors. We say that each and every time in economic situation we we have each and every time uncertainty, maybe uncertainty is part at the parcel of our life, economic life. We say that uncertainty of future cash flows. We talk of the uncertainty of the future cash flows. Maybe when your money is out, it is in a high risk than when you have it by yourself, because the decisions that you can make when it is in your hands are totally different as the ones you can make when it is outside your what, maybe your capacity of holding it, maybe in bank or in cash. Another factor is about the inflation. What is inflation? We say that inflation is the persistent rise of goods and the persistent rise in prices of goods and services. In other words, we say that inflation is defined by a lot of money chasing few goods. But for our case today, when we want to talk about inflation in connection to the time value of money, we'll say that inflation each and every time affect amount of the cash flows in the economy. For example, you realize many debtors to different entities are encouraged to settle all of their debt during inflation. Why? Because the value of money will have depreciated. For example, you acquired a debt of 100,000 from a given money lending institution. You realize now, after the inflation have hit the economy, and now the money is of no more value. You now be encouraged to settle all of that debt, because maybe by approximation, if it's 100,000, the what could be acquired by that 100,000 by then, by the time you are paying, maybe could be acquired using 130,000. Yet you settle 100,000. That means, in real sense, it's like you are giving back 70,000 instead of 80,000. I hope that is understood. Other factor to consider is the macroeconomic variables in future. What is macroeconomic variables? These are the variables that affect the economy. And when I talk of economy, I talk of the aggregate economy. The whole economy, as the economy as a whole. You realize that in the economy that we are talking about, for example, I want us to speak on the economies of scale. Yes, as I've said, the economies of scale. These are the advantages that are attached to maybe to the expanding of the business. You realize when you have your money now. For example, if it was a business which was set maybe with a startup of maybe 50,000, and you realize there are some advantages that can be accrued by expanding that business to a level that it can accommodate a capital of maybe 100,000. So if the business is worth 50,000, and you have to expand it to maybe reach a point that it can operate at 100,000, you realize that there is what we call the injections. You have to inject the business. Where will you come up with this amount of money that is needed for injecting the business or supporting or promoting the business? That is what we say that it is good when you have money now than when you have it in sooner in soon or in a future, because it can help you to make wiser and wiser decision, bringing back a heavy return on investment. Another factor is availability of investment opportunities. I think I've explained it, but I will expound it more. When we talk of investment opportunities, is whereby we say that, for example, there is a project there is an upcoming project. You realize without money you can't take advantages of the upcoming project or the investment opportunities, which could rather give you good return on investment. Another factor that we consider that for preference of money is the urgency of the current consumption. You realize when we talk of the reasons as why we hold money, in fact, why do we hold money? Those are some of the reasons you should be knowing. We have some of the reasons, but there is a speculative motives, there is a transaction motives, but I want to talk about what we call, there is, by the way, there is three reasons as to why we hold money, if you've never known. We have speculative motives, we have transaction motive, and we have precautionary motive. So I want us to speak about precautionary motive. This is the reason as to why we hold money, because of any emergency that can come on our way. For example, it is unimaginable that you'll be holding a certain amount of money, and maybe there is an issue that requires you to defend maybe the business in the court, and you are fined a given amount. So you should have hand or kept that money for precautionary motive. And maybe that if you hand no money to defend your business, it will uh, head up maybe being dissolved or facing other consequence, which could not be the case if you had that money to defend. So by these and some others, I want us to appreciate the concept that sincerely a shilling today, that is what I'm trying to make it be understood, that a shilling today is seriously worth than a shilling tomorrow. Those are many and many other factors can make us to say that we should have money today than tomorrow. And the last one is to take advantages of the cash discount. You realize that at times you are there is different ways of purchasing maybe a product. We see that is those of higher purchase, where you pay a given amount, then you pay the maybe for you to get that apartment, you pay by installment. And you realize when you can be given an option, if you have your cash with you, we can have this amount cut for you, or cut or maybe reduced from your original price. So those and some of other reasons makes us to appreciate the fact that where there is an importance of holding money today more than holding it tomorrow. We continue on the importance of the concept of time value of money. What are the importance? Why do we have to understand and appreciate this concept? One is a determination of effective cost of borrowing. With the concept of time value of money, you can determine now the cost of borrowing. At what expense or at what cost will you charging? Maybe when you are borrowing or when you are lending. Determination of the true rate of return on investment. So you can value your money, and you tell somebody that after lending you 100,000, you give me as 110,000. So you realize what is the time value of money, the value of money, and you'll be you determine the true, the true rate of return on investment. Another factor is on valuation of business. At some extent, though we value fixed asset, we have the current asset. You can't value your business without having the money that the business is worth with you. For example, when we talk of business holding money, we talk of the ability of the business to have to have the ability, or we say that a good business should be liquid enough. What do you mean by liquidity? Liquidity is the ability to cater for the what? For the current liabilities, or the current simply the current liabilities to the business as they fall due, or as they present themselves. This is the short loans that the business is required to settle as it in progress. So we value the business by the amount it is holding today, but is not the amount that is in debt. Because some people say that you can't go and get a debt to pay a debt, which is very true. It is somehow complicated that you want to settle a debt using another debt. Yes, you can do that, but you are not sure enough that you get so that you can settle yours. Another factor is about the selection of the best source of finance. When you want to, maybe you want to finance your business, you can know now from what or from which source will I accumulate this amount that is required for maybe for the as capital for the business or as injection for the growing of the business. Another factor, another thing on the importance is on determination of loan repayment arrangement. How will you be going to settle your loans? It is what helps you, it's the money that you have today that helps you to know how to settle the loans or loan repayment. You can't promise to pay someone, maybe for example, when you want to secure a loan, you have that project that I'll pay maybe monthly or weekly basis. Whatever that helps you to make such decision is the money that you have today. So as we've seen, there is a lot of or many importance as to why we should hold our money today in comparison on or with holding it tomorrow. And now I think we will be entering on the competition part of it. And now we'll start by now looking on these two aspects on compounding, no, three aspects on compounding, discounting, and the timelines. What is compounding? What is discounting? And what is timelines? May we say that compounding is the process of determining the value of a cash flow or series of cash flows at some point in the future when compound interest is applied. Compounding in simple terms is like looking, having a loophole to the future. Or maybe you have a connection and look how will be future look like. I don't know if you understand, but compounding is like looking to the future. That is looking to the future of money. Maybe I have 100 bob today. I have to know it to know. I want to maybe, for example, you say that each and everything have its future. So, what is the future of the current 100 shilling that I'm holding today? Will they, at what rate will it have appreciated? What is the future of the current coin that I have today? The other aspect is about the discounting. We say that the process of finding the present value of a cash flow or series of cash flow, the reverse of compounding. This is just the reverse of the compounding. That is getting the actual value of money in opposite of what I could have gotten in the future. What is that value of it when I have it in the present time? As we be computing, you understand more about this concept. Another thing is about the timeline. I'll say that a graphical representation used to show that we use a graphical representation to show the timing of cash flows. If not otherwise stated, assume that each cash flows occurs at the end of the period indicated. For example, when we talk of an employee, if I'm employed on monthly basis, you realize you receive the payment of the month of January. You are never introduced to and give a certain maybe work or project, and maybe yes, though not many institution that can afford paying before the work, but you realize you receive at the end of each period that you should be paid, if it is weekly or on monthly basis. That is what we use graphical method to present the manner in which the money hit your account. We say that a series of cash flow can be graphically represented using a cash flow timeline. A timeline depicts the time and the amount of cash flows. Cash flows in a timeline are often labeled positive or negative. By conversion, positive cash flows correspond to cash flows, and negative cash flows correspond to outflows. What is cash flows and outflows? Cash flows is another one of inflows. Outflows is cash flows is the inflows. What flows in your account, or what normally hit your account, and at what timeline, and or at what time. The outflows is what leaves or what says goodbye to your account. That is when we say it is indicated with a negative or a positive. Automatically, when something hit your account, we say that you have appreciated it. Now we have a positive cash flow because it have hit your account. But when it do or it leave your account, we say it is an outflow, as the name. I want us to appreciate that whether cash flow is an inflow or an outflow depends on the perspective. Hey, as a borrower or as a lender. What do I mean? The perspective. Do you know? You realize that your inflow is my outflow, and your outflow is my inflow. Yes, as I was saying, or as I'm saying, we say that whether cash flow is an inflow or an outflow depends on the perspective. That is for a borrower or a lender. Remember, when you are a lender, what you are lending is the cash outflow. But to me as a borrower, to me, it have hit my account. So it is a cash inflow to me. And you realize even at the recording stage, what I record my account is totally different from what you record your account. For example, if I get a loan, what do I expect for me to do in my books of account? Because it is a liability, I will have to do what? To credit it. Because maybe it is a liability. And we say that liabilities always have a credit. When liabilities increases, that is the loans, you do what? When you increase loans, you automatically credit. When you pay back the loans, you debit, or you appreciate that you've paid. But I want us to stick to the point that the point on perspective. When you are lending, I'm receiving. When I'm lending, you are receiving. So our accounts are totally different. We say that in using timelines and in solving time value of money problems, one should adopt the perspective of either the borrower or the lender and stay with that perspective throughout the problem. Remember, if you hear of or you are given a case of two different instances or scenarios, you should first of all ask yourself, which case am I dealing with? Is it that of a lender or a borrower? Remember, when we are dealing with the borrower giving out, it is the outflow. But the outflow, what we call the outflow. But when is someone borrowing or a borrower, remember you will be dealing, his money will be positive or the inflow. So that is the thing that we should keep in mind. This is just an illustration of what we mean by the cash inflows. For example, we have the following timeline: the peak cash inflows of a hard rate to be received at the end of each of the next 5 years. You will realize that this certain person maybe started the contract from 0 time to 1, that is to the first year he received this amount, to the second year he received this amount, the third, the fourth, and the fifth year. So you realize the amount due or the amount of 0 month is received at 1, the amount of just like that we receive at the end, maybe in the as the closing maybe of the agreed period. I want us to look on some other simple aspect, that is on the types of interest. And before that, or on types of interest, before that, I want us to appreciate before an aspect of the principal. What is the principal? The principal is the amount borrowed. Simple. If you go to a bank and you want to acquire 100,000, that 100,000 is what we refer to as the principal. That is the amount of money borrowed. The interest. This is a consideration paid for the use of money. Now, since I'm lending you 100,000, what is the return on on the money that I've given you. That is the interest that is attached to the principal, as we'll be seeing. The rate of interest can be thought as price per period for the use, or can be thought of as a price per period for the use of money. That is the payment you pay for using money. That is what I was meaning when I said that we have to appreciate the concept of the time value of money. We say that from the perspective of the lender, interest is earned. I said you better stick on what are you considering. Is it on the perspective of the lender or the perspective of the borrower? But you realize on the perspective of the lender treats interest as maybe income. That is why we say the interest earned. From the perspective of the borrower, interest is spent. If I'm the lender, you give me the interest. If I'm the borrower, I give you the interest. May we start with the simple interest. I say that interest is calculated on the original principal amount only. The base on which interest is calculated does not change, and the amount of interest and each period also does not change. That is, they have a given amount corresponding from period to period. This is a simple formula. This is a simple interest equals the principal times rate times time. Is I means the simple interest amount, P for principal, R for interest rate, and T for time in years. For example, I want us to get this illustration which says given a principal, that is illustration 2, given a principal amount of 10,000, calculate the simple interest at 12% per annum for a period of 5 years and show the beginning and the heading balances. So remember, in our illustration we have the principal amount being 10,000 because we say that the formula is simple interest equals P times R times T. So before you calculate what is our P, you realize this 10,000. What is our R? That is 12%. And what is T? That is the time, is 5 years. But the question, it is good to understand the question. The question says show the beginning and the end balances. So that is exactly what we are going to show by use of illustration. Be keen, because now we have started the practical part of appreciating the concept on time value of money. This is a solution. You realize the beginning balance in the first year, he received an amount of 10,000. So simple interest we send is the principal times rate times time. The principal was 10,000. The rate was 12%, that is 12 all by 100, you realize is 0.12, times time. In the first year, it is the time is 1 year, so it gives us 1,000. The end balance in that financial year, that year, it's 11,200. Remember now, the end balance of 1 year becomes the beginning balance of the next year, that is year 2. It is 11,200. Simple interest is just the same, 10,000 times. This is we saying that the principal does not change. This is the amount that was borrowed. So the principal times rate times time, 1,200. Then balance is your hand, this plus 1,200. That is 11,200 plus 1,200. You realize is 12,400. On the third year, that 12,400 becomes the opening balance of the third year. Then the simple interest remains the same. Then you hand this 1,200 plus 1,200 plus 1,200 to get 13,600. This 13,600 becomes the opening balance of the fourth year. The simple interest remains the same, 1,200. You hand 13,600 plus 1,200. You realize now the head balance is 14,800. Then balance 14,800 becomes the opening balance in the last, that is the fifth year. And the simple interest remains the same, and you realize now the amount here is 1,200. You want 14,800 plus 1,200 to get heading balance to be 16,000. The ending balance is the total accumulated amount that the borrower will pay at the end of the 5 years. You realize this is the beginning balance. This is the end balance. What is the difference? You acquired the loan of 10,000, yet the accumulated amount that you have paid is 16,000. It automatically depicts that the interest there was 6,000. Maybe you can hand the interest of first year, second year. We say that the interest does not, times does not change. When you want to get the simple interest, that is the 6,000. And the short formula is the simple interest equals principal times rate times time equals 10,000 times 0.12 times 5 equals 6,000. I hope my listeners you've understood. And if you've not, you can maybe review for more understanding. So we have appreciated then the concept of the simple interest. So we want now to get to another important concept, that is the compound interest. I think in high school mathematics we were taught how to compound or how to get the interest at maybe the accumulated amount using the compound interest. Compound interest, the difference between compound interest is, for example, when we talk of the end balance, in simple interest, the end balance became the beginning balance, but it was not used in calculation of the simple interest. But in compound interest, we realize a slight difference. We say that interest is calculated on the original principal and the accumulated interest. That is what I was trying to say, that the interest is calculated on the original principal you plus the accumulated interest. So for example, this year I hand 10,000 and I acquired the principal of the interest of 1,200, that is 11,200. That 11,200 is used now as the principal in the succeeding or the come next year. Yeah. With compound interest, interest is calculated on the base that increases as period, and the amount of interest and also increases with each period. The formula is this: compound interest is equals the you open these large bracket, principal, open bracket, 1 plus rate power n. This is then the n, where n, that is the period in years, minus the principal again to get the accumulated what? The compound interest. You get these, then you subtract the principal. Where CI is the compound interest, P is the principal, R is the interest rate, N is periods in years, and so on. Illustration. You realize this is the same illustration that we earned from the previous example. Given a principal amount of 10,000, calculate the compound interest at 12% per annum for a period of 5 years and show the beginning and the heading balance. So you realize that you can tackle the question, you get the same answers, but it is good to understand the question if it is testing the simple interest or on compound interest. The solution. You realize then by the beginning, the first year, the beginning balance was 10,000. Simple interest is 10,000 times 0.12, that is 12% times 1, that is 1,200. The end balance is the 11,200. You realize this end balance, yes, becomes the opening balance. But now when we come in computation of the simple interest using the compound interest aspect, we take now this accumulated amount, the beginning balance, that is the summation of the beginning, the principal and the interest, that is 11,200. You multiply times the rate times 1, you get 1344. The end balance becomes the summation of 11,200 plus 1344. You get 1254. This 1244 becomes the beginning balance of the land here, and then it is used as the principal of that here to calculate the simple interest. You get 1505.3. That is I've rounded off to the nearest one. To the nearest whole number. No, not the whole number, but to the nearest decimal. To one digit. you realize the end balance here is you had this 12,544 plus 1,545.3. You get 14,049.3. This becomes the opening balance of the fourth here, and this opening balance or the beginning balance becomes the principal. You multiply, you get 1,686, and you after adding 14,049 with this new interest, you get 15, that 5.3, and this becomes the opening balance or the beginning balance of the next year. After multiplying that principal, you multiply by the same rate, you get this amount as in interest, that is 1,888.2. The accumulated as the amount is 17,620. You realize the difference between simple interest and compound interest. The beginning balance here was 10,000, yet the end balance here is the head balance there is 70,623. The difference is from the formula we send P open bracket 1 plus 1 close the bracket power n close the bracket minus P. So if you want to subtract this principle, no, this is the first principle. If you want to subtract it from the hand balance, you realize now the what? You subtract 17,623, you subtract 10,000 from 17,620.5. You realize now this is the cumulative or the compound interest. That is, by following this formula, you get the interest is 7,623.5. Now you realize, comparing with the previous what interest that we earned, the simple interest, to the compound interest, we have a different figure. I think they are differing with 1,623. So I think we have appreciated those two aspects. Let's now continue becoming more serious on the topic. That is the future value and the present value. We have the future value and the present value. And how do we do about them? May we start with the future value of a single amount. May I say that future value is the amount of money that an investment with a fixed compound interest rate will grow to buy some future debt. That is what I was talking about, predicting. What value will your hundreds, Bob, that you have today will have acquired by here 3 or 5 years to come? That is what now we want to look on the future. The investment can be a single sum deposit at the beginning of the first period, a series of equally spaced payment, and annuity, or both. We say that since money has time value, we naturally expect the future value to be greater than the present value. That is automatically. Because we send, by the way, I want to make it clear that saying or considering the aspect of time value of money does not mean you should not invest. No. It is that you should invest, but the money that you are investing that you get from investment should be more than the money you invested. That will prove that the future value of money have been attached or have been appreciated. But when you give 10,000, then you receive 10,000. I don't think the aspect of time value of money is being applied anywhere. We say that since money has time value, we naturally expect the future value to be greater than the present value. The difference between the two depends on the number of compounding. That is the number of compounding, or it is compounded on that is the, for example, may I elaborate more. I was giving an amount of 100. And I've said 100 that I have today should be the 100 that I will acquire after investing the 100 that I have today should be more than the 100 I have today. But now you realize when I invest or when I project my 100 to the nearest one here and another 100 to the nearest two here, the rate of return will be totally different. When I invest 100 today and receive it after a year, another 100 expecting to receive it after maybe 2 years, the returns are totally different because of what we call the periods. Another aspect is on interest. If I invest money where I get the interest of maybe 10%, and another investment where I get maybe 13.1%, where do you expect me to get a lot? Is where the interest is high. And please, my listeners, I remind you again, we said when we look on the aspect of future value or time value of money, never forget on the perspective of the borrower or the lender. Remember, if I'm the lender, I will be interested to lend maybe at higher rate of interest because I'll be getting higher return. But when I wear the shoes of now the borrower, I will not be encouraged to borrow from the institution or from the lender who is lending me his money at a higher rate of interest. I think that point is home, and I know someone have grabbed it for practical use in economic situations. The formula of future value we say is the FNN. FV, that is the future value. N is the number of periods interest is earned. Is equals the present value. Future value is equals the present value. At the when we say that is the zero, that is the at time 0, 1 plus the r, then n. We get the future value equals the hey. So I think it's good for us to go to an illustration. We say that is illustration 4. An investor deposit that 5,000 in a bank for 4 years. This is an investor like you. You invest that 5,000 in a bank for 4 years. The interest rate is 10%. Compute the future or compound value of this amount. Future is another name of compound. It's like in other ones we have been told compound this amount. What will investor get from the bank after the expiry or after the maturity of the agreed period? Let's see how we should work on it. The solution: future value on a given period equals the present value 1 plus the r power the number of periods. You realize that is that 5,000. This is the present value, that is investing. 1 plus this was 10%, that is 0.1, so it becomes 1.1 times 35,000. You realize this is 51,000 to 43. I think for the ones who are following can now appreciate this concept. Imagine someone and invested that 5,000, but by now he or she is receiving 51 to 43.5. This means the money have appreciated, and now we can agree that is present or is present money, that is we can recognize them two concept. One is the money he earned, the money this person earned as a by that time, that 5,000, that is the money he earned as a minute. That is the money he earned as the money he earned as sorry for interruption. The money he earned as is cash by 4 years back have helped him to enter into investment or in saving or investment, and in return he have earned a lot of money as a return on investment. That is why I was saying a shilling today is worthy than a shilling tomorrow. Taking an example, he had know that 5,000, so he couldn't have earned this amount. Another aspect that I want us to appreciate is on the future value, that is the compounding value, whereby we say the future value must be greater than the present value. You realize this is the future value. The present value is that 5,000, but the future value is 51,243.5. I think now the point is at home. So, want to look on another aspect on the same future value interest factor. This is a factor that is used to calculate the future value of an amount per unit of its present value. You calculate the value of an amount per unit. We say that when a particular interest rate at a certain number of periods, it is written as FVIF, R percent L, which translates to future value interest factor in a given rate at a given period of time. And by this, you will understand another factor, that is, for example, a minute. I think there is a problem with the system. A minute for us to solve on the issue kindly. Still trying to solve the issue. Kindly. So as you wait for the issue to be solved, I'll say that the future value interest factor is a good factor now. As we've said, it is used to calculate the future value of an amount per unit of its present value. What does this mean? That is a factor used. A minute. It is like there is a breakdown. There is something not going on very well. Something not going on very well. Kindly bear with the situation. There is a breakdown. That is a system error. Bear. Application is not responding. Bear with the situation for now. Bear with the situation. I think it is coming.